Alright, welcome back everybody to Halo Reach. We've just passed the portion where we've crash landed back on the planet Reach. Our buddy George is now dead, thinking he sacrificed himself saving all of Reach. In reality, he did not. I'm going to presume this is someone's helmet cam. Possibly the remains of George's body. But in any case, I'm picking up a handgun that thing, body, maybe even, I'm not exactly sure what it's supposed to be. If it's supposed to be like your crash equipment, your entry, orbital entry equipment or what. But we're going to make our way to what is known as New Alexandria. Got a little bit of a limp there. Gotta imagine landing from orbit even with a even with landing equipment would be hard. This is New Alexandria, August 23rd, 2552. Yeah, this whole storyline occurs over a couple days. So much so that the 48 hours for the U.S. Marine Corps, whatever, United Planetary Systems Corps, even though it's only 48 hours is an eternity when you're fighting a invasion of this caliber. We're more or less fucked at this point. And with all of the extra carriers...
Kilo dispatch. All available teams advance to Traxxas Tower. Evacuation will commence ASAP.
So yeah, we've now gone more or less from the point where we are trying to push back the Covenant and fight them off of Reach to the point that now we are just trying to more or less evacuate people off planet. Or at least out of New Alexandria, at least, you know what I mean? Because that's what we're doing in this mission is basically going through, fighting the Covenant, and you'll see that there are people that are evacuating, and the only way to do that is by freeing up the skies. I don't know why I came down here. This was sort of a mistake. Or like throwing that grenade. But, yeah. Couple jackals without shields. They're not too hard to defeat, obviously. Pick up this. And,
Romeo Company, be advised, we have reports of Covenant suicide squads.
You gotta be kidding me.
That's a negative. Keep your eyes open, troopers.
yeah, I don't know where that grenade came from. Came kind of out of nowhere. I don't know if perhaps the elite or the grunt that was behind him, for some reason, picked up the grenade in front of him and threw it on me, or what the story was, because I really don't know where that came from. If anyone wants to point it out exactly where that came from, I don't know. It just felt like they dropped it in on top of my head. So like I said, it probably came from the other grunt. That was pretty much the only other place it come from. It was either the grunt that was in front or the grunt that was behind me.
Danger close, my command, over.
Copy, Kilo 40. Firing FPF-1 at your command.
Up to firing Mac rounds.
FPF-1, over.
Firing FPF-1.
Ready?
Shot.
Hold on to your helmets.
Kilo 40, request FPF sit rep.
Negative 2-6. Corvette's still coming.
Copy 40. Firing FPF 2. Shot.
So they've got Corvette classes
Copy
coming in
Kilo
now.
40. Firing FPF 1 at your command.
They're trying to take them out with Mac cannons before they can make ground,
Firing FPF 1.
but they're not being stopped by the Mac cannons.
Hold on to your helmets.
Kilo 40, request FPF sit rep.
Negative 2-6. Corvette's still coming.
Copy 40. Firing FPF 2. Shot.
Damn, how do you stop that thing?
Great question. You don't. So one of the things about the Halo lore, which is kind of interesting, I think, anyways, is that the elites are the Covenant, as you know, is obsessed with the Forerunners and their technology, which they call or precursors or whatever they want to call them, and they're obsessed with their technology because basically when the previous ruling species sacrificed itself to take out the flood, it wiped the galaxy clean of life, but they had essentially a system to reseed all the planets back to their primordial state. And to sort of make a long story short, as the Covenant grew and got stronger, it's been hunting down a lot of these. Yeah, we're running into brutes now, in case you didn't notice, which I think is just excellent. Just excellent timing. We've gone from the point at the beginning of the game when the Covenant is starting to invade to it's ramping up. They're creating ground forces to we're gonna put up the final stand. We're gonna knock their super carrier out of the thing, and then the Armada comes in behind them, and of course, what would be on the Armada but brutes? Not just elites, not just grunts and jackals, but you would get the whole thing minus, you know, some profits maybe. And yeah, this is the perfect time to introduce them right before you start getting bored of fighting elites and grunts and blah 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 blah. We're going to bring in another enemy that you know from the lore of the other games, but we're going to bring them in to add a little bit of wrinkle to the gameplay that you hadn't previously been dealing with. So if I'm not mistaken, that could be wrong. I don't think there are any elites in this mission. They're all brute-based / grunt jackal-based enemies. But to get back on track, what I was saying earlier, so the Covenant has been hunting down relics, and because they're hunting down these relics are giving them a technology advantage. In particular, I believe some of the stuff that they're on, like the Banshees, that's Forerunner technology, is what I understand. So basically they take Forerunner technology, they figure out how it works, and then start to produce it. So, and then probably plasma technology as well is probably something else that they got from the Forerunners to give them an advantage. And sort of the hilarious part about all of this, and we'll get there eventually, is that in Reach, it is basically basically a telling of what happened prior to the events of Halo 1. But despite everything that you lose in this game, including the planet and all the people and, you know, everybody, they unearthed something on Reach that is Forerunner technology that was probably, in addition to Master Chief, the difference between winning and losing the Covenant War. Now I understand the Covenant War took a bit of a wrinkle here, but the thing that they unearthed on Reach, like I said, is what I very much believe changes the difference between the way the game ends, this game, you know, the way that Halo 1 ends, and the way that Halo 1 could have ended if they didn't have, or if the Covenant had taken possession of this artifact. Now, I'm not really sure how Halo Reach works in terms of the future games, because Halo 4 and forward trying to bring in a weird storyline, and I'm not really sure how that is rectified against the way this story is set up in Reach. And in some ways it's a little disjuncted as well in comparison to the way that Halo 5 or Halo 1 starts. And I will get to that point later on, but sort of I'm trying to create the sense that there is an overarching storyline, and even though story of Reach is very much a tragedy for all of the characters you're playing as, again, what are you willing to sacrifice if it ultimately results in your final victory? And very much what they, like I said, what they unearth later in this game, I very much believe is the difference between not only winning in Halo 1, which of course sets into, you know, into events what happens in Halo 2 and 3 with the Covenant kind of collapsing in on itself because the internal politics that end up showing their ugly head because you blew up one of the Halo rings. And again, when we get to the episode, I'll talk about it more, hopefully, because I'm not recording these after finishing this run. I'm in the middle of this run, obviously, as I'm talking, but I'll hopefully remember to talk about this when we get to the point where we're unearthing this Protoss, or I want to call it Protoss, that's Starcraft, when we unearth the Forerunner artifact. But for right now, what we're basically doing is, as you can see, we're fighting brutes and you know, accompanying background people, you know, grunts, brutes, jackals.
Trying to get to the tower, you're too late, Lieutenant. Corvette over the starport pounded the hell out of the place. Cargo port's impassable on foot. Rooftop evac's a wash. We could use the executive landing pad, except there's no easy way to get there. A group of ODST specialists are working a plan. They might appreciate some backup.
One thing I absolutely adore about Halo games, and I understand
Other side of the hall there, Lieutenant.
it's a little bit of a wink to the fans, and it's a little bit of a cop out at the same time, is that voice you just heard is in Halo 1 and Halo 2 and Halo 3, despite again the fact that nobody makes it off of Halo except for the Master Chief and to a lesser degree the Gunnery Chief. Obviously, some of the elites obviously make it off the off-world. Some of them are probably either never made it to world, Halo world that is, or they were on Halo for a while and then they went back to their command ship. I'm talking mainly the Arbiter, because there's little to no way that, you know, the Arbiter or even Johnson for that matter should have survived the Halo ring's destruction if they were on the ring itself. But I don't know, maybe parts as it blew up, maybe the other parts of the ring stayed intact and, you know, their environment didn't completely evaporate. Who knows? The jetpack's pretty fucking awesome. I mentioned in an earlier episode how I kind of busted one of the achievements open by using infinite fuel and infinite ammo to unlock one of the more difficult multiplayer achievements. But it's still very useful even in this single player mode. By the way, it's always good to look behind you, because you never know what's sneaking up behind you right now. So, yeah. Not sure how he got behind me, but he did. You think you're safe, but you're really not. One of the things you can do, because again, you've got the jetpack. I doubt you can fly over this whole area. I don't think you have enough fuel. But you can definitely kind of like shortcut your way across this area without probably having to engage with all these guys. Because ultimately what we're trying to do is we're trying to get to a landing zone where the helicopter can pick us up. Obviously we'll have to clear that landing zone, but we don't have to necessarily clear out this area. It just makes it easier so I don't get hit from behind by a guy with a fucking hammer. Or have, you know, have a bunch of brutes slash grunts slash jackals shoot me out of the sky as I'm trying to my way over them. Just accurate enough, right? I've always kind of liked the differences between... I'm gonna get off topic here, I apologize, but I always like the differences between, say, your traditional shooter like this, where there's, you know, you aim at the character, and it's to be assumed that your bullets go essentially in a straight line, or, you know, because it's Halo, and we're so far in the future, that our scope basically accounts for the fact that there's gonna be a drop with the bullet. So as you focus on something that's farther away, the scope automatically adjusts without causing it to look too jarring, but to basically adjust for the distance, you know. So when I shoot the bullet, again, in gameplay terms, it just goes straight like a line. Whereas in maybe lore implications, it goes more along the lines of like the sight automatically adjusts for the distance. Versus a traditional, like a more, I should say more realistic, like Battlefield, where they actually account for bullet drop. So particularly if you're using sniper rifles, you have to account for the fact that the farther away you are, the more you're going to have to adjust your shot for that. And I've watched some professionals, retired army people, marine people, either, I don't know if they were actual snipers in the army or whatever, but talk about, or even people that really good marksman. They talk about, you know, using, in battlefield terms, you know, using information based on your shots to figure out distance. So there was a guy, older guy too, like much older than I am, like probably retired, playing video games for who knows what reason. For fun, obviously for fun, but you know, you don't expect someone in their 60s or 70s playing, you know, well, I wouldn't say competitive, but near competitive multiplayer Battlefield. But the guy showed off how you basically do it not only in Battlefield but in real life, where he's got a guy he wants to shoot. So what he'll do is he'll put his reticle on the guy he's trying to shoot, and then he'll look for where the bullet mark is. And then he'll basically see, okay, so I aimed at that guy's head, and the bullet hit, you know, in terms of where it's at, maybe about a yard or two below where his head was, okay? So I'm going to adjust that by essentially saying this invisible marker, or dot if you prefer, on your scope is where I need to, where my new center is, you know what I mean? Instead of the crosshairs being in the center of your scope, now it's one of those dots, one of what they call mill dots. And you put the mill dot,
There's the pad. East end of that tower. Other side. Entrance is on
you know, you see where you originally shot, and you find the mill dot, and that mill dot becomes your new center point, and then you use that to not, well, you've already determined the distance, but now you've determined if I put the mill dot on this guy's head, it equals basically lining him up in my sight.